Welcome to The Illuminators, Changemakers in Senior Living, the podcast that explores the past, present, and future of senior living through the eyes of those who are transforming it from the inside out. I'm your host, Matt Motley, Chief Executive Officer of Illuminus, a faith-based, not-for-profit that aims to transform senior care for the better. Join me as I seek to reimagine the aging experience through an ongoing dialogue, where together we'll shed light on current issues and shine a light on a brighter tomorrow. Thank you for joining me this morning.
You're welcome.
Looking forward to our conversation today, and really want to just start, we're both blue golds.
We are.
And I want to talk about that a little bit and just how you decided, hey, I want to be a healthcare administrator.
Yeah. So I kind of stumbled into healthcare administration. I found myself at UW-Eau Claire as an undecided major. I come from a family that is both in healthcare and business management, finance side of things, and tried to find, where do I fall? Am I committed fully to a healthcare nursing program perhaps, or am I interested in business, accounting, finance? And I kind of stumbled into healthcare administration as the balance between both, and started in my undergrad there in some of the classes, and really found that it was a good fit for me. Got to have some empathy and heart in the work that we do, but also think strategically and use critical thinking skills as well in the career. So it's been a fun place to be. Coming off of the UW-Eau Claire program, has such a network of individuals in our area and in our industry, which has been fun to stay connected to as well.
And when did you become when did you declare your healthcare administration
Right
major?
away, freshman year.
Okay, so you went there undeclared,
Yeah.
but then you quickly realized this is what I want to do.
Yes, UW-Eau Claire had a one credit course for people who were undeclared.
Right.
And I
HCAD
took
101.
Yeah. I took that class, and they, did some personality inventories, and
Who was the professor?
I do not remember.
It wasn't Lindsay
No.
or Jennifer?
No, and it wasn't actually an HCAD course. It was just
okay.
any major
Just a very
could take
broad,
it.
yeah.
And they said, you should think about healthcare administration. That might fit what you're looking for. And declared right away and got in the program. And I wasn't sure if I was going to make it in 4 years, but I did.
All right.
One way or the other.
Yeah. And you did your residency where?
I was up in the cities, Twin Cities in Minnesota, Minnesota Masonic Home in Bloomington.
Okay.
I was drawn there.
You know what? I didn't realize that. That's where Mike Senden is now, the CEO for Auburn. He was the former CEO for Auburn.
Oh, interesting.
So that's where you did it. Okay. Okay.
So they've
Learned
got
something new.
About 100 beds of short-term rehab care, what they call TCU in Minnesota, and fun building, full campus, continuum of care. But that building was turning and moving, and learned a lot there. Had a really great experience.
Who was your preceptor?
Shelley Wiggin.
Okay.
And she recently passed away just a few years ago. But she and I, in the interview process as I was selecting a practicum location, really connected, and I learned a ton from her. They had a fellow healthcare administration graduate also working there, Beth Schroeder, and she was leading their facilities team at the time. And so, they're pretty invested in the program as well.
Yeah. Okay, so you were there for a year. Well, let me go back. I want to ask you. So how many sites did you look at when you were interviewing for your residency site?
Gosh, probably like 10.
So you did a lot.
Yeah, I toured quite a few and a lot of different geographic regions. I wasn't really sure where I wanted to be. I mostly was interested in looking for a connection with the preceptor, one that I thought I could grow with, one that I could open my wings and try some things out and experience some tough situations. And when I met with Shelley, I thought, gosh, this will be a good fit. And you know how the matching program works for the preceptorship. And I think we ended up both matching 1-to-1. And so it was a good year.
So that was your first choice.
Yeah,
And
she
her
was.
first choice.
Yes.
So when you were looking at the 10 from a geographic perspective, was it all in Minnesota? And just throughout Minnesota, or was it Wisconsin as well?
No, I had an interest in moving to the cities, just experience that area.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recall if I looked at a few in Wisconsin. I think I did. But those that I selected ended up being in the Minnesota area. And again, just I grew up in the Madison area. I've always been in Wisconsin and was just looking for, an opportunity to see some other areas, which is such a great part of the healthcare administration program.
Right.
You have that year where you can go anywhere. And the residency program, you have a little bit of a stipend, so you can comfortably find somewhere to live
Yeah.
and experience it. And just a nice excuse to try something new.
And did you live in Bloomington?
I lived in South St. Paul.
Okay.
I ended up having a roommate who was also in the program. She was doing her residency in the Twin Cities areas as well. And we had a 2-bedroom apartment that we could barely afford. And we both worked, full time in our residency program, which was a little strange because all of our friends back in their 4-year programs were still back on campus and living a different life. But it was really a jumpstart into my professional career, kind of understanding what it meant to work Monday through Friday and, kind of out in the real world.
And so when you completed your residency, which was a year,
Yes.
what was the first role you had in healthcare as a professional?
Yeah, so I joined the Marquardt in 2015, just shortly after I graduated in the program, I think in June, and we graduated in May. At the Chase Spring Banquet, I had the opportunity to interview with a variety of different senior living providers and start to understand what I might be looking for in a career. At that point, I interviewed with Michael Benson. He was president, and he was working as the administrator at the Marquardt in Watertown at that time. And him and I had a nice interview session, and I really liked to hear the mission and the understanding of the Marquardt and Illuminus in general. And
had you known him when you were in school?
No. So he had been 2 years, I think, ahead of me, 1 or 2 years ahead of me, and I didn't really know him well from his cohort. But we had a nice interview. I ended up coming to the campus, touring around, starting to learn what the culture was like. And at that point, starting as an assistant executive director was a really nice stepping stone into my professional career. Coming off the residency, learning a lot as an assistant executive director, and kind of kickstarting from there.
And so you started your role with Illuminus as an assistant administrator.
Correct.
And were in that role for how long? Do you remember? I don't remember. A year?
I think it was about 3 years.
Oh, 3 years. Okay.
So a big portion of my role was supporting the new development construction. We opened the new CBRF.
Yes.
And that was an exciting, first for me, understanding how to open a new building, right? Making sure.
And that's where we first started really working together.
Yeah.
Was with Park Terrace's opening.
Yes, right. So, making sure you have enough mattresses, and you have to think about all the little things in a new building opening up that you don't think about every day. Silverware, and does the call light system work? And, do we have the right room numbers in the right areas?
Right.
And getting that building set up and ready to go. And it was a fun way to join the campus, and it was an exciting time in the community. People were really excited about the new development.
And so you were in that role for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then you went on to do some project work for us, right?
So about
Janesville.
that same time, Illuminus started partnering and growing with other senior living communities. And I had, kind of tapped on the shoulder and said, hey, I'm curious and interested about the growth that's happening here with Illuminus, and how can I become more involved? And about that time is when I joined the management company side. And a lot of my projects at that point were working on systems, working on policies and procedures, trying to find ways as we grew as an organization. How do we start to partner with other organizations? We didn't really know. We were working through that as we got going. And I believe that to be about 2018 or 2019 when I started working on behalf of the management company, or Illuminus.
And when did you remind me when you started in your role as VP of?
2022.
Okay.
And in the time before that, I was functioning in the information analyst role, then as the director of quality and risk management. And at that time, that's when some of our centralized services were beginning to change and grow.
Right.
In that time period.
So I want to talk a little bit, want to kind of transition and talk about the information analyst role and kind of the risk management component, and just start by, as you alluded to, we didn't have a roadmap when we grew Illuminus, and so a lot of it's been trial and error, and even a lot of the skills that you've learned, the lean process management, the Baldrige, we've kind of learned on the fly, so to speak. Just interested in kind of your broad thoughts around what your role has become, and did you ever see yourself doing this 10 years ago?
Right. I say that often. I never envisioned as a new graduate of the UW Healthcare Administration program that I would start with an organization a couple weeks after graduation, and 10 years later I would still be here. I still say that today. I never expected to join a team and stay.
Yeah.
And that sounds tough to hear.
And when you, if I just press on that a little bit, and how long did you think you would stay with an organization?
I thought I would join as a new grad and maybe be 3 or 5 years.
Yeah, kind of your starter job, get your feet wet, figure out what you're doing.
And then I would grow somewhere else or find something new, jump into a different area. And quite frankly, I wasn't even really sure if senior living would be the path or if I'd go find somewhere new. And so it still surprises me today how much my reflection has changed on that, and how much I've grown and learned about senior living, and how much my thought process has changed to this is a great place to be in senior living. And I never expected that on the front end. But it's been fun to be in that journey and kind of have that perspective change.
And just you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this before, but if you think about, as an administrator, you're in the building every day, you're working with staff, you're working with residents, and you're kind of getting real life feedback.
Yeah.
It's very different in the role that you're in today, but just as meaningful. It just, the impacts are different. Just reflect on that a little bit.
I think often about the work that our teams do in the buildings, resident facing day in and day out, working alongside colleagues, resident facing, speaking with families, helping residents work through the transitions of living in a community style senior living environment. And that's really hard work. You couple that with the administrative burden and the complexities that come alongside our industry, makes it really, really tough to work in that industry. And what I've found as I've become a little more distant from the resident-facing position into where I am now is these are the types of projects and efforts that we can work on kind of behind the scenes to allow those folks to have more resident-facing time in, engaging in work that really matters. And if we can offload any of that burden in order to allow them to work more closely, that's what's really important. And so I've had a little bit of a shift of, yes, our mission is to serve the residents that we care for, but also now my work is to help those serving the residents. And so it's been a little bit of a transition, but as you kind of look down through it, you still know the work that we're doing is at the end result for the residents.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. So we're talking about kind of your role in supporting the administrators. We also talked about the fact that we didn't have a roadmap. We've come to learn, I think, as time has gone on, that some of the things we've done have been pretty unique, centralizing our medical records staff, centralizing our MDS staff. Just talk about, from your perspective, some of the innovative things that you've seen Illuminus do and the impacts that you think it's having on the industry, the kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the culture of Illuminus being able to voice crazy ideas has helped our teams drive a lot of that progress. It's the gosh, I've been thinking about this for a long time. What if we tried something like this? This is the issue that we're seeing over and over and over, and we can't find a way past it. What if we tried this? And the culture that allows for our teams to feel comfortable to bring those crazy ideas forward has brought some great success.
As a young professional working in an organization that continues to grow, do you find that exciting?
Yeah, big time. I could list on and on and on the number of times that I've tried an idea that didn't work. And I'm able to do that in my role because of the trust and the encouragement of the organization, encouraging us to try new innovative ways, and it's okay if it doesn't work. We have to try. We have to, think about things differently and give it a go in a new way. When I talked earlier about, gosh, I didn't expect to be in an organization for 10 years. I think a lot of the reasons why I do stay is that ability to try things, to give it a go, to think outside the box, to try and troubleshoot. Senior living is a tough industry, and someone has to be brave and bold and willing. And we often think, it could be a scary world if we don't try these new things. And if it's not us, then who?
Right. Right.
And so I've taken that really personally in my role here. Our population is aging, and these problems aren't going to get easier on their own. And if it's not us who are trying new creative things, will anyone?
Right.
And so that's extremely motivating.
Yeah.
And having a net underneath you to catch you when you fall,
Right.
because we do. You try new things, and you are going to mess up,
Yes.
and things are not going to end up going the way that you hope they were. But knowing that there's a net underneath you gives that opportunity to try it out.
Yeah, I think oftentimes when I'm talking to different groups about some of the things we tried, a lot of times people think that everything you try works.
Yeah.
And in reality, maybe half of them work.
Maybe half.
And you got to be willing to pivot.
Yeah.
And you got to be willing to confront the fact that, that wasn't a good idea.
Yeah. Yep. And being willing to say, this is what we tried, here's what we found and it didn't work, and here's where we're headed now. It takes a lot of trust from our entire staff, our residents, our families to be able to do those things. And, offering transparency in those situations. Here's what we tried. It didn't work. So we have to pivot and try this way now. Build some of that engagement and trust with the rest of the team who is experiencing that change alongside with you.
Right. I mean, we've built the organization to be a disruptor in a industry that's very, very mature and is stuck in its ways and unwilling to try new things. But we also are living in an environment where technology is being implemented at a faster and faster pace. It's having a more significant impact on our resident lives, on our staff lives. And within Illuminus, you lead many of these initiatives, many of these new programs or technologies that we're implementing. Can you just talk about what it means to be an organization that is a disruptor, that's on the cutting edge of implementing some of these technologies?
Yeah. We have a great responsibility. With technology comes great responsibility. The world we live in, technology isn't just a luxury anymore. It's an expectation. We have smart homes, and we have wearables, and we have robotics, and it is now an expectation of the world that we live in day to day. It's no longer gosh, that's a really neat thing. How cool if I could have that. And with innovative technologies, whether it's systems behind the scenes or it's devices and new equipment in our buildings, all of that expands a great deal of responsibility that we have to ensure that things are protected, our cyber environment grows when we do that, and we have a great deal of responsibility to ensure that we're doing it in a thoughtful way.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we are people caring for people. That's what our organization is.
Right.
We do embrace technology in a way to allow staff to care for people more easily in a higher quality way. And we have to just make sure that we're being really thoughtful on those technologies that are being rolled out, that they're done in a safe way, an ethical way, and really paying close attention to that. At the end of the day, those technologies are being placed to allow more one-on-one time between caregiver and resident to embrace and enhance that quality of care.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it interesting. It seems so simplistic today, but just the idea of getting a smartphone in the hands of all of our caregivers and the impact it's had on their workflows, and also the residents, the ability to use it as your key to open a door, to be able to do charting at bedside right on your phone, to be able to use it as the time clock to punch in every day, or to submit your vacation requests. Read email. It's incredible just what that one device has done to change the way we provide care.
Absolutely.
Emily, we were talking about Illuminus being a disruptor, willing to try new things, and one of the concepts that we've brought into our organization is that of lean process management, which when most people hear about lean process management, they think about the manufacturing world, which utilizes it much more efficiently than we do in healthcare. But our organization has started to really embrace it.
Yeah.
And you are trained as a yellow belt
Yeah.
in lean process management. And so I just want to get your thoughts on, what that means to our organization, how we utilize the concepts, what it means, and kind of where you see it going in the future.
Yeah. When Illuminus brought to my attention the lean culture, the lean idea, I was hesitant. It felt very cold and manufacturer driven. I thought, gosh, I don't know how this is gonna fit in with the work that we do every day. So I hesitantly dabbled in, and it's been shocking how important it is to the work that we do.
Yeah.
I originally thought it was, cutting back and cutting corners and skipping steps in order to just do things faster. And
Right.
and
Well,
it
that's an
isn't
interesting
that.
perspective. Yeah.
It isn't that. And I think back to some of my first involvements with lean, and often we put a board up on the wall that talks about ground rules, right? And some of those ground rules really centered me for beginning my journey in lean. Every opinion is valid. There are, expectations that there's nothing that we can't touch. We can see all of the ideas, bring them all forward. We might not be able to work on all of them, but there's a level of comfort in those meetings, in those project teams, that allows you to think differently. And as I've seen our lean culture grow and change, we've found such valuable outcomes in the work that we've done, asking, why do we do it that way? And is that the best way that we could work every day and day out? Are those tools ones that are leading to good outcomes, or should we rethink that?
Right.
Finding data to help us drive those decisions, identifying waste in the things that we do for no reason. Why have we always done it that way? And it became a very comfortable, natural place to drive progress in our organization. And I think every team that we put together on lean project initiatives starts a little bit hesitant. And I try and remember that as a lean leader. My first day is sitting in the chair in the lean project team and thinking,
Yeah.
what's happening here? And trying to build that project team up to know what our goals are, and what lean really means to us.
And do you think our colleagues have embraced the lean concept?
Yeah, we've had a few really, really successful large group initiatives with lean process improvement, and that just ripples out, and it builds some confidence. Hey, we actually did that.
Right.
We pulled that off. We sat down at the beginning of the meeting thinking, there's no way we're going to be able to meet that BHAG, that big, hairy, audacious goal. I don't know how we could ever get there. But we do get there, and that's what's exciting. And that just echoes, right? People hear about that and they think, oh, what is that?
Well, and it's such a great way to get so many people involved in the process that anybody in the organization can identify an issue and then say, hey, we got a problem, we got to fix this. And then to be able to put a team together to really dissect it and to feel like you're part of the success of figuring out the problem.
Yeah. We often say as leaders to lean process improvement projects, we're not coming with the answers. I don't actually know what the end goal is. You all who do the work every single day, you have the answers.
Right.
You might not feel like it right now, but you do.
Right. We talk about that all the time. When we don't know the answer to something, just go ask our colleagues. They know the answer.
Yep. They know it. They might not upfront tell you that they know it, but helping them to succeed is exciting.
Yeah, and you've led a number of project teams yourself.
Yeah.
Which has been fun, and it's been fun to watch kind of the growth of that happen over time.
Yeah, really exciting, especially on projects that I have no clue anything about.
Yeah, I think that's the most fun.
And I say, I really don't know a lot about this area, so I'm going to ask some of these silly questions.
I'm going to dig in, and we're going to figure it out.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, which it does make it fun. Let's transition now, talk about succession planning, because you've had a number of different roles within our organization, and for the past, I'm probably going on a year or two, we've built a pretty significant succession plan in which you'll transition from the vice president of quality and risk to the senior vice president. So just want to talk about that process and kind of from your standpoint, how you're feeling about that, both now and in the future as we make this transition.
Yeah. I think back to when we began talking about succession planning years ago. Sherry Sierra, at that point in the organization, was beginning to think about her horizon of retirement.
Right.
And I knew I wanted to grow with the organization, and I began to be a little brave in saying, I'd like to grow with the team. I'm really excited about where Illuminus is going and starting to find ways to vocalize my goals for growth within the organization. And, being identified as a successor really early has been so important in the work that we're working on for 3, 5, 8 years of that succession plan. Having that timeline allows us to build a lot of trust from the people who rely on Sherry for the work that she does every single day. And I felt really honored that the transparency has been there, which allows me to grow as well. I think about the roles that Sherry has held in the organization, and I think about the roles that I've held in the organization, and how can we find ways to translate some of her skills and knowledge and efforts for me to learn over the next 5, 8 years has been really helpful. I'd say we've learned a lot as we go. It takes dedicated commitment to having good, thoughtful succession planning. It takes time, and it's not always fun to step away from the roles that you do every day to sit down and really think about this. But we've committed to doing that, which has been fun to watch change as we've continued to work through the roles. There are some, tough parts about succession planning. Sherry and I are not the exact same person, and so it's been fun and interesting kind of learning where her and I differ and what that looks like in our future. It has also taken, me to be brave and say, let me try it. Let me give it a go. See if I can pull this off. Someday you're not going to be here.
Right.
And I'm going to have to figure this out. And so being brave and willing to say, Sherry, just let me try it first. I'll count on you if I need support or help in some way, but let me give it a go and let's see how we can do. And it's been a nice way to know she is still here as a mentor and available to support. But in the meantime, let me try as well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, an organization is as we grow, we've gotten more and more sophisticated, and so that transfer of knowledge is so critically important. And how awesome for you to have a mentor, in Sherry. You talked about just, you're not the same person.
Yeah.
You want to do things, you may want to do them one way, she may want to do them another way. Just talk about some of the challenges related to succession planning.
Yeah, so it's true, Sherry has a very distinct leadership style. Her and I have a lot of similarities in that, but I also have different ways that I would navigate things. And we're, we are 30 years apart.
Yeah.
But being able to talk through that and say, I recognize this is how you would approach this situation. My perspective would approach it in this way, and being comfortable in that push and pull, I think has driven both of us further.
Yeah.
Recognizing why does she see it that way, and why would she make that decision, or what is she seeing that I'm not seeing, and vice versa, I think has grown both of us.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's tough.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, sometimes we have some tough challenges through that, but I think her and I would both say we've grown a lot from some of that.
But on the flip side to that, she's got almost 35 years of knowledge in the organization and in long-term care.
Yeah.
And the ability, the wealth of knowledge and the ability to go to her and say, hey, what should we do here? And for her to be able to say, well, I've had to deal with this multiple times in my career.
Yeah.
Just talk about it from that perspective, the benefits of having a mentor who's done this for so long.
Yeah. Early in our identified succession, I remember myself saying to Sherry so often, my ears are so big. I still am, just absorbing all the time, hearing as much as I can, taking in as much as I can, understanding how leaders navigate tough situations and just absorbing, and also then afterwards saying, tell me more about the legacy behind that. How did that 20-year decision come to be? And what brought us here as an organization, that history and roots that she has within the organization? I try and soak up 10% of it to carry on as much as I can. I can't perfectly carry her 35-year tenure, but it's very clear she knows the legacy of the organization, and I feel, a duty to carry on a portion of that on her behalf.
Yeah.
And some of that is just listening and learning and asking as much as I can, and
well, and that's the beautiful thing about just a well thought out transition plan. And the organization doesn't expect you to carry all of that forward.
Yeah.
Because we know that, and the organization knows the world's evolving and we have to evolve with it. And I think in even for those that mentor people, as I've done over time, you want to transfer that knowledge, but you also want the mentee to take that knowledge and then grow it even further, because it's how we progress as an organization.
Anyone who knows Sherry knows that that's what she wants.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Emily, you and I have worked together for the better part of 10 years, and you know that, it's just in my nature to be always pushing the envelope,
Yeah.
that I want to be a disruptor. I want to change how we provide healthcare services. And that's not always easy for people working in the organization. I think it's exciting, but I also know it's a lot of work. Just from your perspective, having worked together so closely, and you and I are often working on the bleeding edge of implementing these technologies, just share with me your thoughts on just how hard we push and what that means.
Yeah. Matt, your words are, it's not always easy. My word sometimes is, it's terrifying. You push us in a way that makes us brave to try new things. It is sometimes terrifying.
Yeah.
You step away from a conversation, whether it's in passing or it's a full day strategy session, you walk away and you think, I don't know how we're going to do that.
Right.
And you rest your head on your pillow that night and you think, is he crazy? Is there any way that we can actually pull that off? And how? And I can't, how does he think of these goals? And then the next day you're still thinking on it. And the next week you're starting to think about ways that maybe, some ways that I work through that is just digesting phases and think, if that's the goal, that's a big goal. That's a crazy goal.
Yeah.
But what can I actionably make progress on that is actually heading us in that direction? And that makes it a little more palatable.
Yeah.
In the beginning, you're terrified.
Right.
And it's like, I don't really, where do you come up with this stuff? But phasing things in a way that it's like, that is headed towards the true north. That is where we want to go. And then sometimes you hit it and you're like, holy smokes,
Right.
how,
Just being willing to try things. So do you think we've, in the years we've worked together, do you think that we've moved the needle in changing how healthcare services are provided?
I do. We talked about areas where we've fallen and we've made mistakes and those happen, but we have had great successes. And when you can see those filter throughout the organization in the lives that we touch, you talk about our circle of influence, and every small decision that we make makes a vast change on the people that we're serving every day. And that's cool. When you win and you hit it, and you think about how outreach is happening to those we serve is really cool.
Yeah. I mean, as you know, I don't have a fear of failure.
Yeah.
I really don't. I maybe slightly, but not much. What would you tell, knowing that our organization is innovative and we're constantly trying to push the envelope, what advice would you give to a new person, knowing that many people, they're afraid to fail. They haven't failed in their professional career.
Yeah.
But working in our organization, that's going to happen. That's an everyday occurrence because we're trying new stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think take a deep breath, be willing to admit when we misstep, be willing to kind of look into what was our original goal, what was the outcome, and how did we get there? What happened that led us to miss or mistake or not get there? And I think it's really tough, but being brave enough to say that didn't work the way we wanted, and I recognize that,
Right.
and this is what went wrong.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm going to work on to try and remedy it in this direction. Here's our plan to head in a new way, or here's the feedback we got from the stakeholders it impacted. This is what we're going to do differently. Making mistakes happens every single day.
Right.
It's what you do about it.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And we talk about feedback as a gift.
Yes, working really hard not to cover it up and push it under and
Right.
oh, it didn't happen and I don't know, hiding it never works. And so, right, understanding what went wrong, how do we hear from the people that it impacted, make a course correction, and make a plan to move forward. And knowing that there is a family culture that surrounds us. If you think about your own personal life, we make mistakes in our personal life all the time too. But you're in it together as a family, and through the hard times as well. You know,
Right.
you're gonna misstep, but how are we gonna work through it?
And what do you see as some of the potential downfalls or pitfalls of pushing the organization hard to be a disruptor?
Yeah. The workforce industry that we're in allows for folks to have a moment or two of being uncomfortable and then stepping away, saying, nope, I don't want to, that's too hard, that's too complicated, I don't want to have that kind of pressure on me. I'm going to head that way. That looks easier. And that's you know, a tough world that we live in. Burnout is really common.
Yeah.
And so balancing the really steep, aggressive goals that we have with what is manageable and helping people to understand that you are making progress and not being terrified, I'll use that word again, and
Yeah.
saying, I don't want to get into that. That is, it's too much. It's too stressful. And so balancing that is important, and helping those folks who are worried about that know we're going to make incremental progress. We're not going to do it overnight.
Right. Yeah.
It can help.
Yeah. Emily, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the challenges that you see long-term care facing.
Yeah. Long-term care is a tough industry. I say that every day. We are on a demographic shift that is against us.
Yep.
Our population is aging, our workforce is getting smaller, and sheer numbers are against us, not on our side. That is a mountain that we have to be ready to climb every single day. I think about some of the policy reform that impacts us, regulatory burden that changes what we do. A lot of people get into long-term care with hopes of serving our elderly population and not necessarily knowing how regulated we are. And some of that administrative burden really impacts the work that we do. Payment reform is a challenging one that healthcare in general, not only long-term care, is facing every single day. One that, you know, when you think about reimbursement, is really, really tough from margins in the work that we do. And so we have to think creatively about how can we at Illuminus move the needle when there are so many pressures externally that we can't always navigate. We talk about the workforce challenges as well. You know, I think about nursing enrollment, for example. The ability to educate individuals into nursing careers has really changed and made it tough for the long-term care industry to be a place where we can grow qualified individuals in career paths that are meaningful to them, the work that they do. You know, so I think, you know, we talked earlier about some of the ways that we can try and alleviate some of those challenges. Many people working in long-term care will say, this is a tough industry.
Yeah.
You got to be ready to, you know, pull your boots up and dig in, because it's not easy.
Right.
It is not a fluffy, easy industry to be a part of.
What excites you about the future of healthcare?
You know, I talk about the demographic change being a challenge. I think sheer numbers helps me to understand that we will figure it out.
Yeah.
The aging population is not going away.
Right.
And they have new expectations for us. Many of the individuals aging in our populations are 15, 20, 30 years outside of their career and have this whole segment of their life to live. And what their expectations are is changing. they are not thinking of aging as a decline portion of their life. They are excited and proud,
Yeah.
and that energy fuels us. The demographics shifting in a way that population is growing so much helps me to understand that we will put attention to it, and we must put attention to it, simply because of that demand and the need. There's no going away
Right.
from long-term care
Nope.
and senior living. It's not going anywhere.
Right.
I talked earlier about if not us, then who, and that really excites me. How can we be the drivers in senior living?
And when you think 20 years into the future, what do you want to see radically changed?
Yeah, I think about that often. I often hear people who work in long-term care in senior living bashful about that. Oh, I work in healthcare, or I'm a nurse. You'll hear someone say, I'm a nurse at the hospital, I work in the ortho clinic. But it's really unusual to hear people say, I'm a nurse in a skilled nursing facility, and be
Right.
really proud about that.
Yeah.
And I would love
There's still
for
a
that-
negative stigma around that.
I would love for that narrative to change, not just for those of us in the industry, but as a whole, to really be proud and energized by the senior living industry as a whole. Being, excited to say, I work at Illuminus, we serve seniors every day, and that to be something really, really cool.
Yeah.
And
And do you think we can get there?
I think we can get there. Yeah.
I do too.
20 years is far and not far all at the same time.
It gives us enough time.
Plenty of time, and again, just thinking about that, this industry is full of possibility. It's not just decline. Helping people to understand this isn't just individuals kind of passing away and the end of their story. There is so much wisdom and joy and pride and excitement in this time of people's lives, and for us on the outskirts of those individuals' lives, being able to tell that story and be proud about it, and help others to understand that too, would be pretty neat.
I've been an administrator for 21 years, and you've been an administrator now for 10. And we're both professionals that have worked our way through the healthcare profession, and we have young families.
Yeah.
And my son is 15, and my daughter is 12, and your daughter's 6 months?
She is.
6 months.
Yeah.
And so I just want to talk a little bit about the balance between our professions and raising families. Yeah. And I'm a little further along in this process, but wanna get some of your insights into what are the challenges, what are the fun aspects, what do organizations need to do to evolve in order to feel supported as a professional working with young families?
Yeah. Prior to getting married and having our first, work was my family.
Yeah.
And I gave a lot,
Right.
all of myself,
Yeah.
100% of myself to my work family, I will call it. And that means so much to me, giving my all to the work that I do. As a young professional and starting my own family, your life becomes more complicated.
Oh, for sure.
Your mind and your heart is pulled in more directions than you think it could be.
Yeah.
And it becomes, you have to be really intentional about how you spend your time and how you work through that. There are pulls and pressures at work. There are pulls and pressures at home. And you find yourself trying to balance. I'm only 6 months in, so I'm still on my teeter-totter of balance.
It feels like an emotional roller coaster all the
Yeah,
time.
Yep. There are challenging things happening at work where you have to commit your time and your focus to, and then there are challenging things happening at home you got to commit your time and attention to. I think finding ways to be successful in that are, being willing to work with your employer and your work family, and them hearing you out about what's going on at home. Some days you can commit yourself for 11 hours to your workplace professional responsibilities, and some days you have something come up at home. The child has a fever at daycare, and
Right. And do you feel like most of your colleagues are accepting of that
yeah,
and are supportive?
Yeah. There are, so many days where I come into work and folks say, "What's Avery doing today? What does she learn? What's new with her?" And it's just been fun to share my family life at work. I feel supported in ways that they know home is changing and complicated too. As a new mom and a young professional, you try and figure out what am I doing every day? I don't know. Your routines change and your priorities change, and having individuals at work kind of know that or be through that. Matt, you talk about your own family and say, I remember before Avery was born, you're saying your whole life is going to change for the better. You have no idea what's ahead of you, and you really don't until you get into it. So many of my work family members have been through raising young children, and that's wisdom that I can lean into and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to figure out, and I'm getting pulled, and I don't know how to navigate this.
I think it strengthens relationships with our colleagues, just the ability to share kind of our personal lives as well as our work lives. Do you find the same thing?
Yeah. There are so many colleagues that I know so much about their families. We spend so much time together, and it is important for us to be able to connect on that level. I feel, comfortable enough kind of talking through those things at work and saying, hey, I'm sure you've gone through this situation too. Do you have any ideas for us? Because we're stuck. And that just shows that we are real people. We work really, really hard day in and day out, but at the end of the day, we're all just real people trying to do the best that we can. And it's shocking, we talked about different generations in our workplace right now, and problems or difficulties raising a family change. The types of things that I worry about are different than the types of things that maybe Sherry worried about.
Just wait until your daughter wants a cell phone, social media accounts when she's 12 years old.
Yeah, but knowing I'm not the only one going through that, other real people that I know and trust are also going through that or have been through it, is really comforting.
Well, and I think as a leader, it makes it more personable. You become more approachable. I think the more you can open up and share some of those stories.
I think a lot about the majority of the workforce and the teams that we have are young women, and many with young children as well. And when you think about the challenges as being a new parent or a seasoned parent, and I think it's really important for us at Illuminus to honor that, and I think we do in a way that supports them at home and professionally.
How do you think an organization like Illuminus needs to continue to evolve to be supportive of young professionals who either have a young family or want to start a young family? Because I get asked all the time by young administrators, is it even possible to be an administrator and to have a family? Can you really juggle that? And you're doing it right now, and I've done it for a long time.
There are unique challenges to being a young parent in a professional role. My husband and I had a lot of very intentional conversations about what sort of supports do we need in order for this to work. And when I think about our workforce, of course, things like childcare are really, really, really tough in the world we live in right now. Mental health is a really, really important segment that I think when we're supporting young families is an area that we have to pay close attention to. And, knowing that you are on a balance and having your employer recognize that and finding ways to support you through that is important.
Yeah. I remember when I was in college and my wife and I met one another at Eau Claire, and I remember telling her, I said, if we're going to have a life together, you just have to understand that it's going to be crazy and chaotic.
Yeah.
And I remember her just looking at me like, what on earth are you talking about? And I said, I don't know what the future is going to look like, but I have a lot of plans and a lot of things I want to accomplish. And being a healthcare administrator like we are, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's more than a 9-to-5 job. It's a lifestyle because we're caring for people.
Yep.
Just talk a little bit about kind of your and it's difficult because our spouses, they don't really have an understanding of exactly what we do. And you're probably like me, you don't want to go home every night and try to explain it to them. But just talk about how important it is, that support system.
Yeah. The communication between families at home is so important. The 9 p.m. call that we have a building whose power is out and they can't access their medical record.
Right.
Okay. The baby's trying to go to sleep when that's happening. And being willing to have those discussions at home and professionally and saying, hey, here's where I'm at in these scenarios. To your point of sometimes people not in our industry don't always recognize that our caring for others happens 24/7 at work. And finding ways to support that, especially as a nursing home administrator, is complicated.
Yeah.
I think you're right when you talk about having upfront discussions about real scenarios, right? Something's going to happen at 9 p.m. and this is what it will require of me, and how will we navigate that?
Right.
The child will get an ear infection and daycare will not let her come that day. And what are we going to do about that?
Yeah.
And those aren't always easy conversations to have, and that pulls you in two separate directions, which can be tough. But I think, Illuminus knows that, yes, we have priorities and goals, and sometimes you drop everything for work, and sometimes that has to happen, but also knows your home life is really important too.
Right.
And how can we help support kind of both sides of that?
Yeah, I think it's important for not only young professionals, but any administrator who has a family to just have an ongoing frank conversation with your employer.
Yeah.
To say, hey, these are the challenges I'm dealing with, or I need to do X, Y, and Z over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And society has adapted quite a bit, and even the way we work today is so drastically different than it once was. You don't have to go to the community at 10 o'clock at night anymore. You can log onto your computer and deal with a lot of things. So the world has evolved quite substantially.
Those changes happen in families' lives all the time, right? I think about a CNA who came to me at one point in my career, and she said, we're moving. The next 3 weeks are going to be such a mess for me at home, and I intend to be here, but my mind is hitting on a couple other levels that it always isn't, day in and day out. And as a partner at work, to know that is helpful. She's got a lot going on at home right now. These are some of the things that she's dealing with, or a team member going through a divorce, and just knowing that we're all real people. There are still real things going on in our lives. There are, family members passing away, or tough accidents, or really hard things that happen in our world that we have to recognize as team members impact when we come to work too.
Right.
And to your point, feeling comfortable to talk through that at work is so important to help people just kind of understand where you're at right now. And it's funny how when things push and pull in other directions, other team members sometimes are at the point where they're like, I can take on a little more. I can support you right now. I know your life is pulling you in this direction, but I have the capacity to help you here. And being vocal about it and talking about it is sometimes the only way through it.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk about the challenges, but there's a lot of benefits. And my kids grew up at the communities that I was an administrator for, and I always used to tell them, you've got hundreds of sets of grandparents.
Yeah.
And they took full advantage of that when they were little.
I think about the Halloween trick-or-treating in a senior living community the best way ever, because there is no snow, no freezing temperatures, and hundreds of grandparents that have bowls of candy. Just you take 2 steps and you're at the next door already. So there's a lot of fun.
And to see that intergenerational experience is just really incredible.
Yeah. When we talk about senior living in the future, I see some of that intergenerational definitely becoming a part. The complexities of the demand of aging population coupled with that child care dynamic that we're in right now. It's really, really tough to find reliable child care.
Yeah.
And you wonder how those generations might start to play a part together.
Yeah. Emily, thank you for this today. It's been a lot of fun to hear your perspectives on senior living, and I appreciate you coming on, and thank you everyone for watching.